but I'm going to pass it off to Barry to discuss more about the stack and unification and product development we're bringing there.
Thanks, Mike. I think at a high level, like the way to think about the changes that are coming to the Cosmos stack, the Interchain stack, and the way to think about the changes that we're having in terms of how we think about it is up to this point, and especially over the last few years, the stack development has been in, components, right? We had teams working on the SDK as, a stack to build a chain. We had teams working on IBC as a bridge. We had teams working on Comet as a consensus protocol. We had teams working on CosmWasm, as a smart contracting platform. And there wasn't any cohesive overarching connection, right? Each of them was going off kind of in their own direction. And the stewards for the stack did an excellent job, we think, in helping to actually make them, more reliable, scale them, and make them more competitive. But we weren't really taking full advantage of the fact that we have all the pieces, right? We have all of the pieces that you need to build a really comprehensive, really easy to use, incredibly deeply programmable stack for launching, building, and scaling chains. And that's really how we want to think about it now. We don't want to think about it in terms of, what is the Cosmos SDK doing? Or what is IBC doing? Or what is even the Cosmos Hub doing? What we want to, where we're going is thinking about things from the perspective of how do we make the Cosmos ecosystem, using the stack, using the hub, the absolute best place to build an opinionated app chain. And that's the transition in thinking, right? And like I said, we're incredibly grateful for the work that the stewards have done so far in terms of managing the individual components. And where we need to go now is actually developing them in a unified, cohesive way as a platform. So in the super short term, like Mag said, the main thing that we're thinking about is how do we onboard a ton of more liquidity into the ecosystem, and how do we improve the user experience in Cosmos? Because one of the things that we think has been a huge problem that Cosmos has had culturally is this like complete overarching focus on developers and not focusing enough on end users. And we went through that transition ourselves at Skip, where initially we were working on MEV solutions for Cosmos chains and Cosmos developers, but we really quickly realized that with the state of the ecosystem, people were having a really hard time getting to chains and using chains, which is why we started focusing on interop and making it super, super easy. And we want to think about the stack development from that same perspective. So for Comet, the really big focus is going to be making block times much, much faster for Cosmos chains. If you use Solana or you use a rollup now, they're fast. They're fast as hell. And Cosmos chains, for the most part right now, are still 6 seconds. Some of that is really simple. We just need to get people to change configs. Some of it is more complex engineering around P2P and the gossip system, but we need to get that down to less than a second, right? The Cosmos ecosystem and interacting with multiple chains in the Cosmos ecosystem needs to feel like interacting with one chain. On the IBC side, the big thing that we're focusing on is IBC v2, which we can talk about more later. It's a massive simplification of the IBC protocol that's really going to allow us to connect and the ecosystem connect to other chains beyond the Cosmos ecosystem. So to Ethereum, to the EVM rollups, to Solana, and going to allow folks to implement those much, much faster. So in days or weeks instead of months or years, which is what it has been. And we think that's super important because if you're building in the Cosmos ecosystem, your application should be able to interact with other Cosmos apps and with apps in other ecosystems over the same APIs. As a developer, it shouldn't matter to you where someone else is building. IBC should let us access the users there, access the liquidity, and interop with the protocols there. And then on the Cosmos SDK, the short-term thing is we're going to continue to work on the V2 work that the steward started and really finish that up, since there's a huge performance benefit there. Something like 10 to 25x's transaction performance. So we're really excited about that. The last new thing that I'll talk about is, in addition to all of these changes and all of these focuses, we are going to actually bring an open source EVM to the Interchain stack. For years, we've heard that most Cosmos chains want a simple, reliable, and free path to add EVM functionality. So Solidity smart contracts, Ethereum, JSON RPC compatibility, MetaMask support to their app chains. And it's essential, we think, that whatever solution there is performant and supports automatic equivalence between, EVM tokens, Cosmos tokens. So Cosmos wallet users, Kepler users can see their ERC20s, and MetaMask users can see their Cosmos tokens, and it doesn't matter, right? You should be able to use any wallet and interact with Cosmos chains. So we've begun conversations with Injective and Kronos that have forks of Ethermint to take a look at taking one of them and potentially open sourcing it and maintaining it as a part of the Interchain stack. We don't know which direction we're going to go there yet, but it's really important that this includes, the token equivalency that I was talking about. So we have wallets on both sides that users can use, and they can have a really seamless experience. Pre-compile contracts, so Solidity contracts can interact with Cosmos SDK modules and the reverse, and support for all of the latest SDK versions and all the good stuff that includes. We think this is sort of like the first step in what we think is also really important for onboarding new chains, which is just in general to have other really simple, really easy open source ways to use popular VMs, starting with the EVM, but we're starting conversations with Solana and with folks in the Move ecosystem to have solutions for the other VMs as well. We think that that's super important, so users don't have to say, okay, if I'm going to build a Cosmos chain, that means I can't use this VM that I want. We think that that choice shouldn't exist. You should be able to use whatever VM you want and have all the benefits of being able to program your whole stack and your whole chain underneath that.